How did Uniqlo beat Gap at its own game? Three things explain it. The business model Uniqlo borrowed from Gap. The partnership that quietly turned clothing into engineering. And the overseas failure that forced Uniqlo to rebuild its global strategy. Gap taught Uniqlo how to build the machine. Uniqlo changed what the machine was built to do. To understand Uniqlo, we first need to remember what Gap used to be. During the 1980s and 1990s, Gap became one of the most influential clothing retailers in the world. It made casual American clothing feel modern. Jeans, khakis, t-shirts, sweatshirts. Simple enough for almost everyone. Distinctive enough to feel desirable. Gap also became famous for controlling more of the business itself. The clothes, the pricing, the stores, the presentation, the customer relationship. Fewer middlemen meant better control over cost, quality, inventory, and brand image. In Japan, this approach became known as the SPA model. The name was ugly. The economics were excellent. Tadashi Yanai saw the strength of that system. In 1984, he opened the first Uniqlo store in Hiroshima. The original idea was simple: affordable casual clothing for everyday life. A little like Gap. By the late 1980s, Uniqlo had adopted the same basic model, bringing product development, manufacturing, and retail more closely together. At this point, Uniqlo looked like a Japanese student following an American teacher, and that description was mostly fair. But copying the model was only the beginning. Uniqlo grew during a difficult period for Japan. The economic bubble had collapsed. Consumers became more careful. They still needed clothing, but many were less willing to pay for fashion statements. Uniqlo offered a practical deal: reliable basics, reasonable quality, low prices, very little risk. Then came the product that made the company famous across Japan: fleece. In the late 1990s, Uniqlo sold a fleece jacket for around 1,900 yen. It was warm, light, available in many colors, and cheap enough to buy without much thought. The company sold millions. Soon, it looked as though half of Japan was wearing the same jacket. For a traditional fashion brand, that might sound embarrassing. For Uniqlo, it was proof. Customers were perfectly comfortable buying the same useful item as everyone else. The product did not need to make them look unique. It needed to work. Gap sold accessible fashion. Uniqlo was moving toward accessible utility. That small difference eventually changed the whole company. The biggest shift came through Uniqlo's relationship with Toray, one of Japan's leading materials companies. Uniqlo already controlled product development, manufacturing, distribution, and retail. Toray brought something else: materials science. Together, the companies started building clothing around specific physical problems. How do you keep someone warm without making the garment thick? How do you move sweat away from the skin in a humid summer? Those questions led to products such as heat tech, airism, and ultralight down. Heat tech uses specially developed fibers to help trap warmth generated from moisture released by the body. Airism is designed to manage moisture and feel cool against the skin. Ultralight down made winter clothing easier to carry. These products were sold inside clothing stores, but the development process looked increasingly like engineering. Materials were created, tested, changed, tested again. The goal was not to guess which color would dominate next season. The goal was to solve a problem people faced every day. The customer sees a shirt or a jacket. Uniqlo sees a technical problem wrapped around the human body. That gave Uniqlo something most clothing brands struggle to build: a reason for customers to come back and buy the same category again. A newer heat tech, a lighter down jacket, a better airism shirt. From a finance perspective, that matters. A product that stays relevant for years is easier to forecast, easier to manufacture at scale, easier to improve, and less dependent on guessing next season's trend. The same basic item can be refined instead of replaced. That is a much more stable operating model than constantly starting over. While Uniqlo moved deeper into function, Gap faced a harder competitive position. Its original formula had worked brilliantly. Clean stores, casual American style, reliable basics with enough fashion to feel current. Then the market split. Zara and H&M made fashion cycles much faster. They trained shoppers to expect frequent new collections and constant reasons to return. Online retail added more pressure. At the other end, Uniqlo became better at functional basics. Gap was caught in the middle. It was not the fastest. It was not the cheapest. It did not own a clear technical advantage, and its brand message became harder to define. What exactly was Gap offering that shoppers could not get elsewhere? The company did not disappear. Gap Inc. still owns Old Navy, Banana Republic, Athleta, and Gap. The Gap brand has also shown signs of improvement in recent years. But the center of gravity had moved. The former teacher was trying to restore relevance. The student was still expanding. If you enjoy this kind of calm business analysis, consider subscribing so you won't miss the next one. Uniqlo's rise was not smooth. Its first major overseas push went badly. The company entered the United Kingdom in 2001 and expanded too quickly. Many stores were in weak locations. The brand was unfamiliar. The products and sizing were too closely based on the Japanese market. Uniqlo assumed that success at home could simply be exported. It could not. Most of the stores closed. The company also struggled during its early expansion into the United States. For a retailer that had conquered Japan, this was a painful lesson. The operating system could travel. The customer assumptions could not. Uniqlo changed its approach. It adapted sizing. It focused on major city locations. It used large flagship stores to explain the brand before expanding more widely. Its Soho store in New York, opened in 2006, made a much stronger statement than another quiet store beside an American highway. The company also became better at explaining why its products existed. Heat tech was easier to understand than Japanese casual clothing. Airism had a clear function. Lifewear gave the brand a simple philosophy, clothing designed to improve daily life. Uniqlo finally had a strong answer when foreign customers asked, "Why should I buy this instead of Gap, Zara, or H&M?" The comparison is not perfect because both groups own several brands, but it is still revealing. For fiscal year 2025, Fast Retailing, Uniqlo's parent company, generated more than 3.4 trillion yen in annual revenue. That was more than $23 billion at the average exchange rate during the period. Gap Inc. reported $15.4 billion in annual sales across its brands. Uniqlo International had also become the main growth engine. This was no longer a Japanese brand opening stores overseas. It had become a global retailer whose largest future opportunity sat outside Japan. The student had passed the teacher. But it did not win by producing a cleaner copy of Gap. It won by changing the basis of competition. As a finance person, I see 3 lessons. First, copying a strong operating model can be smart. Most successful companies borrow store formats, supply chain methods, pricing structures, membership systems, technology. Originality is often overrated. Understanding is not. Uniqlo understood why Gap's model worked. It created control. Second, control only becomes valuable when the company knows what to improve. Owning more of the supply chain is not automatically an advantage. It becomes an advantage when product development, manufacturing, pricing, and retail all support the same idea. For Uniqlo, that idea was simple. Make everyday clothing more functional, more consistent, and easier to buy again. That helped with inventory discipline, forecasting, scale, gross margin, and repeat purchases. Third, companies rarely lose because someone copies them exactly. They lose when the copy learns something new. Gap showed Uniqlo how an integrated apparel retailer could work. Uniqlo connected that system to Japanese manufacturing, materials science, and a different view of clothing. Gap provided the operating model. Toray helped Uniqlo build the moat. Uniqlo did not beat Gap by copying it better. It copied the operating system, then changed the product philosophy. Gap built the machine. Uniqlo gave the machine a different job. One quick note, this is my personal take. If you see things differently, trust your own view. I am here to share a perspective, not a verdict. Which company has the stronger idea today? Gap's return to American style, or Uniqlo's focus on lifewear and fabric technology? Let me know in the comments. Next week, we're decoding another brand or economy. If that sounds interesting, I'll see you then.